Banks lend money to service industries, which are often big business, and to retail stores, which are often small business. Practically all children see banks as the place where Daddy keeps his money safe.
I had burned, literally, probably 6 banks at the time the auditors wanted to do business with me. The banks failed to give them the necessary information they needed to determine what kind of person I was, to my advantage.
Imagine investing your hard-earned savings into what you believe is a legitimate business opportunity, only to find out that it's all a trap. This is the harsh reality of pyramid and Ponzi schemes, which have long been a part of the financial landscape, preying on unsuspecting investors with promises of easy wealth. They may seem too good to be true, and in most cases, they are. These scams can have devastating consequences, as investors can lose everything they've invested. One of the most infamous examples of this type of fraud is the story of the Z-Best carpet scandal.
Are you tired of going through the same problems every time you want your carpets cleaned? Then it's time you called us. I'm Barry Minkow, president of Z-Best Carpet Cleaning. Your carpets deserve the care and expertise of our licensed, bonded, and insured technicians. So call now. I'll guarantee the work and the price in writing.
Z-Best, the last word in carpet cleaning.
Under the leadership of Barry Minkow, this multi-level marketing scheme promised tremendous returns to its investors, but in truth, it was a carefully crafted trap designed to extract the hard-earned savings of the unsuspecting masses. As we delve into the details of the Z-Best carpet scandal, we will unravel the truth behind this nefarious scheme and witness the impact it had on those who were caught in its grasp. This is a story of greed, deception, and ultimately, the unraveling of a complex web of lies. As a child, Barry Minkow grew up in California, where his career in persuasion and deception began early in his life. When he was just 9 years old, his mother hired him to work as a telemarketer for the carpet cleaning company where she worked. As Minkow grew up, it was evident that he had an insatiable desire for money, power, and control. Minkow was a charismatic and ambitious young entrepreneur who founded Z-Best carpet cleaning service at the age of 16, in the humble confines of his parents' garage, with a mere 3 employees and 4 phones. Minkow, still a sophomore in high school, was forced to rely on the kindness of his friends to transport him to carpet cleaning jobs. The early days of Z-Best were filled with hardship and financial struggle. Customer complaints and demands for payment from suppliers added to the young entrepreneur's woes. Even making payroll proved to be a daunting task, but his ambition was not to be denied.
Well, basically the fraud was, we had a carpet, furniture, and drapery cleaning that was legitimate. We owed a lot of money to a lot of people, borrowed to expand on the way up. I couldn't get bank loans a lot very easily, and I got caught up in paying usurious loans, borrow from Peter to pay Paul.
With a focus on obtaining capital for his company at all costs, Minkow employed a variety of underhanded methods to achieve his goals. Among them were arranging burglaries for insurance payouts, stealing his grandmother's pearls, and forging $13,000 worth of money orders from a liquor store in an effort to obtain cash. It was clear that his actions were driven by a single-minded determination to see his company succeed, regardless of the means. So as Minkow's obsession with accumulating wealth intensified, so did the extent of his criminal behavior. In 1985, he shrewdly opened a merchant's account at a local bank, giving him the power to accept credit card payments. From then on, whenever he found himself in need of cash, he would simply add fraudulent charges to his customers' credit card accounts and collect the money from the bank. When customers raised objections, Minkow, with his smooth talk, would blame the forgeries on dishonest employees, pay them off, and continue with his illicit activities. His insatiable desire for money seemed to know no bounds, and he would stop at nothing to get his hands on it. He also built a network of individuals who helped him in his fraudulent activities. This group included members of the Z-Best management team, as well as outside associates who helped him create fake documents and launder money. It was a complex and expanding network of deception that helped create the illusion of legitimacy. In a calculated move, Minkow quickly diversified into the lucrative world of insurance restoration.
And in the process of getting caught in those usurious loans, I got myself in debt and began to perpetrate a restoration fraud. A fraud that would say that I'm making more money than I'm really making, and I need to borrow more money than I really would need to borrow if my company were legitimate. So I needed what we call a built-in excuse. Why are you always short of money? I got these restoration jobs. And I had to fool accountants and auditors into believing that those numbers were real before I could perpetrate that fraud.
With the assistance of Tom Paget, a claims adjuster, he masterfully forged a vast number of documents, falsely claiming that Z-Best was involved in multiple restoration projects for Paget's company. Insurance restoration is a shadowy world of rebuilding and reimbursement, where the line between reality and deception is blurred as companies and individuals navigate the complex system of repairing damage and collecting insurance payouts in an effort to profit from the misfortune of others. Together, they established a phantom company named Interstate Appraisal Services, which verified the details of these supposed restorations to Minkow's bankers, creating a chain of financial fraud.
Now, Paget and his associates had to somehow find a structure that could pass for the building he says Minkow dreamed up on paper. Paget eventually found this one in downtown San Diego. He says it matched the paperwork perfectly. 6 unfinished floors and 2 that were occupied. And then for added measure, Paget and an associate rented this nearby warehouse and office. They furnished the office and filled the warehouse with inexpensive carpet.
But it was just a facade. I mean, this really was not a warehouse in terms of any job.
No.
This was all theater, right?
Right. Because I had this company that we were doing these insurance frauds from, and I had their letterhead, I could make up any letter and any invoice to say that they owed me money for doing this job. I could take some checks in the past and say that they were supplies for the job, and I could piecemeal it together, the detail stuff along the way. Bingo, I have a receivable.
When you have something built up on the house of sand that Z-Best was built on, if there's one tiny chink in the armor, the whole thing can come apart.
Minkow rapidly expanded the company's reach across Southern California, but he was not satisfied just yet. Next, he set his sights on Wall Street. Soon after the expansion of the company, a friend of Minkow's encouraged him to place Z-Best on the stock market with the hope that it would become profitable, and Minkow decided he would take the first steps to do so. This meant that Z-Best's finances would have to be inspected by auditors in order to ensure that there was no evidence of fraudulent dealings taking place on the part of the company. As Minkow sought to elevate his company to the heights of public success, the auditors demanded proof of the company's operations, particularly proof of the company's restoration work, which on paper had appeared to generate a considerable amount of profit for Z-Best. Minkow had previously avoided such inspections by claiming that the sites were confidential, but with the ambition of taking the company public, he could no longer rely on this defense. This time, he was confronted with the task of passing the scrutiny of the financial gatekeepers. In order to create the appearance of a credible organization, Minkow once again enlisted the help of Tom Paget. Paget was tasked with creating a convincing illusion of legitimacy for the company. To achieve this, he rented a building and oversaw its renovation to make it appear as a site of the company's restoration work.
Told they would see a building in the process of construction. And in the back, we were hoping that we would never have to see this building again.
You know, the restoration business was maybe 80% of the income that I earned, allegedly. But 80% of the due diligence that I tried to get the auditors and the lawyers to look at was the carpet cleaning end of the business, which was legitimate.
Despite the effort to create a fake building, the auditor who was responsible for verifying the legitimacy of Z-Best's work before it went public did not conduct an on-site visit to the supposed insurance restoration site. Had they done a thorough examination of all of the Z-Best locations, the facade would have crumbled, revealing that they were nothing more than mailboxes scattered throughout the San Fernando Valley. The auditors, blind to their own limitations, missed the warning signs that could have exposed the fraud at Z-Best, but instead, they set the situation up for an even greater disaster.
Does he want to go back to his clients and the manager and everybody and say that they lost the Z-Best account because they wanted to be petty? Because they set the ground rules and we abided by them? Do they want to lose the Z-Best account? No, they don't want to lose the Z-Best account. And I leverage that to the hilt too. So you got to remember something. Yes, you want to get to know your client, but you want to maintain your objectivity. And I believe the auditor's responsibility is to give up the $100,000 a year fee to prevent the $16 million fraud.
Upon receiving the green light from the auditors, Z-Best Carpet Cleaning went public in December of 1986. At the age of 21, Barry Minkow had become the youngest person in United States history to take his company public. Just days after the company was listed, its shares and valuation soared, making him a multimillionaire overnight. It didn't take long for Minkow's story to catch the attention of the media, who portrayed him as a genius and a business prodigy, even granting him an appearance as a guest on the Oprah Winfrey Show.
Think big, be big.
Really?
End of story.
Minkow launched a grandiose advertising campaign promising the people of Southern California that they could trust his new company to clean their carpets. He flaunted his wealth, driving around in flashy sports cars and living in a sprawling mansion among the elite community of Woodland Hills. But behind the facade of success lay a darker story, as Minkow's true ambition was not just to clean carpets, but to build a corporate empire. He used his new media presence and charm to build relationships with key business leaders and political figures, which he used to then legitimize the company and attract even more investors. They saw him as a rising star, a young entrepreneur to be admired and supported, and so they legitimized him and his company in the eyes of the public. Investors, both big and small, poured their money into the company, lured by the promise of high returns. But the unsuspecting public and investors were unaware of the dark truth behind the illusion they had been sold. In reality, Minkow was using the company as a cover for a massive Ponzi scheme, defrauding unsuspecting individuals and big-name investors of millions of dollars. By February of 1987, Z-Best was estimated to be worth $280 million, and Minkow's stake was valued at $100 million. The company was still grappling with the devastating consequences of paying investors for non-existent restoration projects, draining its cash flow to the brink of ruin. The young and ambitious CEO, Minkow, saw a glimmer of hope when he stumbled upon Key Serve, the authorized carpet cleaner for Sears, on the verge of being sold by its British parent company. Seizing the opportunity, Minkow began negotiations to merge the two companies, hoping that the infusion of cash would help Z-Best overcome its cash flow crisis and potentially put an end to the Ponzi scheme sooner than originally planned. The investment bank Drexel Burnham Lambert offered to finance the deal, and the merger was set to launch. This merger was going to put Z-Best at the forefront of the carpet cleaning industry and would make Minkow the president and chairman of the largest independent carpet cleaning company in the United States. And Minkow was determined to conquer the business world. However, just as the Key Serve merger was about to close, the dark truth about Z-Best was exposed. The credit card fraud that had been fueling Z-Best for years was finally uncovered, and Minkow was blamed for the fraudulent charges. Despite trying to cover his tracks, the Los Angeles Times wrote a story revealing Minkow's past fraudulent activities and the news sent ZBest stock plummeting by 28%.
When he was 15, Barry Minkow started a carpet cleaning company that would one day be worth millions.
He says he didn't know anything about these phony contracts.
Well, that's what he says, but I mean, I'm past the point. To me, that's just humorous now, because once this gets into court, the federal investigators know the paper trail. There are just too many little things that Barry can't possibly cover.
Did you know about that restoration contract? Did you know it was phony?
No, clearly no, not that one or others. I don't ever want to hurt anybody again, ever, unintentionally. And I'm not ready for that right now. I'm not mature enough to handle a company with 1,400 people. And I wasn't then, and at least I have the ability, without the ego and the pride, to admit it now.
The banks held their loans and Drexel postponed the closing to investigate the deal further. The same day, evidence was revealed that much of ZBest's restoration work was non-existent and that they lacked the required contractor's licenses for large-scale restoration work. Minkow tried to calm nervous investors by issuing a press release, claiming record profits and revenues. However, this only temporarily stopped the decline, as Drexel abruptly pulled out from the deal a few days later, causing the stock price to fall again. Once all the fraudulent checks and non-existent contracts were revealed, Minkow resigned from ZBest, citing health reasons. But by this time, the stock price had fallen to $3.50 per share, an 81% drop from its all-time high. Minkow later revealed that an independent law firm had asked for the addresses of all the company's restoration jobs, and he knew that he could no longer keep up the facade. The new board of ZBest conducted an internal investigation and confirmed the fraud allegations, suing Minkow for embezzling $23 million in company funds. ZBest declared bankruptcy, and the Los Angeles Police Department raided ZBest's headquarters and Minkow's home, finding evidence that the company was being used to launder drug profits for organized crime. The once promising empire of ZBest had crumbled, revealing the dark, entangled web of deceit at the heart of its success. Following the exposure of his fraudulent activities, Barry Minkow was indicted by a federal grand jury on 54 counts of racketeering, securities fraud, money laundering, embezzlement, mail fraud, tax evasion, and bank fraud. Despite admitting to manipulating the stock of the company, Minkow initially claimed that he was forced into running a Ponzi scheme by organized crime figures. This story was later proved to be false. In 1989, Minkow was sentenced to 25 years in prison and was banned from serving as an officer or director of a public company.
You got to pull yourself away from the numbers. And hindsight's wonderful, to look back and everybody says, how could you have been fooled by Barry Minkow? How could anyone have fallen for the old fraudulent building restoration scam or an old Ponzi scheme? Well, very easily. The press says I'm gold. The banks said I was gold. I had Hughes, Hubbard & Reed as my lawyers. I was doing well on Wall Street, and I leveraged my auditors.
During his time in prison, Minkow claimed to have become a born-again Christian. After his early release in 1995, he wrote a book about his experience with the ZBest scandal and became a pastor of a community Bible church in San Diego, where he began an investigative firm named the Fraud Discovery Institute. Minkow's journey from a notorious con artist to a self-proclaimed moral beacon once again took a dark turn when he returned to his old ways. He admitted to using his position of trust to siphon more than $3 million in donations intended for the church, creating fraudulent signatures on church checks, transferring funds from church accounts for his personal use, and charging church credit cards for unauthorized personal expenses. Minkow was released from prison once again in 2018, after another 5-year sentence. And so, the intricate web of deceit woven by Minkow was finally revealed, marking the final chapter in a life lived on the edge of morality and ethics.
You know probably how many Barry Minkows there are out there right now? A lot.
Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel if you're still watching, and I'll see you on the next one.